Hey, what we need here is some more trees to fill in so you can't see through this wall at the end of the scene. And I'm gonna plant some young trees down like this. So it's pretty much the same as a full-size tree, just lower. We'll fill in back here. And that'll be the end of the scene so you can't see through. So these are eastern white pines. And they're made out of dowels. There's wires to hold the branches. The branch structures are furnace filter, which I'll show you how to do. And then fine turf sifted on top. And I'll show you how to do this. For supplies and tools, for the first step, is pretty easy. I have some 1/8 inch dowel and some 3/16. I've got a utility knife and a hacksaw blade to add bark. So let's see here. I want to make some small trees. So these trees should be, I'm just feeling this out, about that tall, plus a little bit to plant it. So I'm just gonna make some trunks here. And I'm just gonna cut these. Easy enough. And then whittle this into a point. And I suppose normally you wouldn't do this over your own layout, except doing this over the water. It'll clean up just fine. I'm just putting a nice gradual taper on this with a knife. All right, so there's a trunk, fits in with the rest. The hacksaw blade can be used just to add some bark texture. You can really beat it up. All right, there we go. So we've got our trunks from last night. Today, all I'm gonna do is drill a bunch of holes in at, pretty frequent interval, and every time I go down, about 90 degrees to each other, all the way down. And I don't know what size drill I have in here. I don't think it really matters very much. But you wanna be able to get your wire branches, when you do them, you want to get 2 wires through each hole, at least 2, maybe 3. One of the things when I think about eastern white pines is, there's branches on the top. So maybe like in this area, the upper third is where the most foliage sticks out, the longest branches, and it tapers back up. And then down here, there's still branches, but they don't have any needles on them. And this actually is perfect for us, the modeler, because you don't have to go through all the steps of needles. You're just making branches. That's easy. And it creates, again, it keeps this view that you can see through. If you go out in the woods and look at the edge of the tracks in the summertime, it's just an impenetrable wall of vines and trees and all kinds of little young growth growing up on the side, and then the bigger canopy over the top. But that doesn't work for us. We want to be able to see through the trees, so we kind of gotta fake it a bit. Keep that feeling of being in the woods without really being honest about how the woods look. All right, next phase is to run some of this 24 gauge and 28 gauge wire through the holes that we did. And I like these spring clamps to hold on to my working part. So this part is a little slower than the other parts. And the next step is slower yet. So up top, I like to use some fine wire. Got some nippers here. Don't seem to be nipping very well. All right, so the branches can be kind of short up top, but they're surprisingly long as you go down to the bottom of the tree. So. Just doubling these up, pushing them through the hole. There we go. And then we're gonna set these in better, but I kind of put a dab on here and then kind of pull it in and out. And that's it. It's that over and over and over again. One of the things that I like to do to let these dry without the wires getting pushed out is just put a weight and let them sit over the edge of something. It's even better if there's a radiator down here. If I was inside, that's what I'd do, but I'm outside today. I don't have enough of these clamps to hold them all up. I guess, I mean, these are like $1, so, I mean, I guess I could get a couple more clamps, but I don't want to drive to the hardware store. Also, as you get down, you don't have to make them stick through anymore. You can just have them come out one side of your hole and just kind of, you know, make it so the wire comes right up. Seal it up with some matte medium. There you go. Here's a branch, you know, here's a tree filled with branches. They're just glued on. We just let this dry before we take the next steps. This is all dried up. All the wires are dry in here. And I'm just gonna kind of make these look like they start as a single branch and then widen them out. That's all I'm doing is kind of, and the idea here is that we're gonna put furnace filter material and they're gonna lay across the two branches and we can make like a big fan out of branches. If it were just one wire, the furnace filter could just, as the glue dried, kind of, you know, flip over and get out of plane. It's pretty nice that the whole, that the matte medium is pretty slow drying. So what we can do is coat all the branches before we start applying sawdust. So I'm just gonna make sure everything's coated. It's all right if you get it built up on the trunk a little bit. It'll look like, you know, the branch is a little thicker there rather than a wire sticking into a dowel. All right, so, oh, see there's a drip. We don't need that. Get out of here, drip. So now I'm gonna use this colander from the grocery store and some sawdust from the table saw and just shake it on. It applies just the fines and it applies them really nicely in a way that looks right. Oops, I forgot some branches here. It's all right, go back and fix that. If it gets on too thick or maybe it starts looking too thick at the edge of the branch, you can just pick this stuff off later. So that's pretty good. Got some dog hair. It's not right. There we go. It's a tree. So I've been here, oh, I don't know, 10 minutes and I've done 2 out of the 5. Easiest step. Someday, the model railroad's gonna go up there. You know, imagine if there were stairs. But there's not stairs. So we're working down here and now we gotta go back over to the other building, get some spray paint. Well, the trees with the sawdust over the wires have been drying overnight, so they should be ready to paint now. I'm gonna hit it with this really super boring brown color that I found in spray can, and then once that's dry, I'll dry brush on some gray to really show the bark on the trunk. And there's that. It already looks more like a tree, right? I'm gonna let this guy dry. Got the other 4 to do. Look at that color. It's like a camouflage or something. It's wonderful. Second to last step here. What I've got is this furnace filter, and it comes, well, in this case, it was like bright green, and I don't know if it's nylon or fiberglass or what, but I sprayed it brown, and it comes, there's like a couple layers in here, and it can kind of get teased apart, but it's kind of glued together. I don't know if they spray it down with an adhesive or if it's like thermally welded or something when it gets manufactured, but this stuff is awesome. I don't know, can you see in here the different layers? It's great, it's pretty airy. When I look at the prototype pictures, or if you go out and look at a pine tree, the thing for me that really sticks out is that the branches are really quite big and relatively flat. Now they got some, on the eastern white pine, the needles, they're pretty long, maybe like this. You could use 4-inch static grass, and that's about that big. But for me, I'm trying to sort of exaggerate the look, so it's this big, flat reach of branches. If you look at a fir, the needles hang down like this. It's a really different thing. And a fir, they can be really long. So anyway, these work pretty good. And previously, I used to do all this work to really cut these to make them look like natural shapes. Not necessary. All you gotta do to make this happen is cut these loosely triangular, and then get the branches really flat like this, and you lay the triangular piece on there. And then when you come back and you put some scenic tack on there so you can make the ground foam stick on to make like needles, when you're kind of wiping that on, it roughs up the surface enough and takes away all the flyaway strands that it ends up looking really, really good. So the trick here is not to think too hard, or you'll spend an hour just on this step per tree. That's not a good use of your time. I'm gonna use this tough tacked paintbrush and brush the tack onto here. So I'm just working like this, and it's already kind of softened this up. Should probably start at the bottom, but we're breaking the rules. Now, you don't need to get this all white, you just need to drag it over the top. All right, so here I've used the tough tack. Just gotta give this a little bit of shape here. This is all over the place. And as this sits quietly by itself, it'll kind of, glue itself back together after getting messed around. I'm trying to keep all these leaves, or branches, I guess, this branch structure kind of level. That's the way it is in nature, kind of level. Get these all, and the lower ones tend to go down a bit. The upper ones tend to go up a bit. Planting's pretty easy. I'm gonna try and get this in here, and it's just kind of get pushed in. So I'm gonna cut a hole with the X-Acto, just to like a cross slit type shape. There we go. I'm gonna just push this guy in. I'm gonna kind of work it in amongst its peers. There we go. What we're going for here is a dense look, and I think we're kind of starting to get there, right? So as I build out the other ones, they'll just fill in the space. I probably need one here. I need a guy or two way over here, then I'll be done.